I get it, there's a tempting impulse to grab the cheapest subwoofer you can find, only to end up with a box that rattles more than it thumps, and leaves the rest of your system feeling flat. That I should have spent a little more, regret shows up in a lot of home theater forums, especially when people compare a $100+ budget unit to something that actually fills a room. The question is whether the SVS SB3000 feels like a smarter spend, or if it's just another price tag with a glossy finish. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking at subwoofers, I wasn't just scanning IMS numbers. I asked myself three things. Will this sub blend with the rest of my speakers without drowning them? Can I actually get decent bass in a modestly sized living room without rewiring my whole setup? And finally, is the price justified by real-world performance, not just a marketing headline? The SB3000 landed on my radar because it's positioned as a reference class sub for a price that's still under $2,000, which is a sweet spot for many enthusiasts who want serious depth but don't want to break the bank. First off, the driver. SVS went with a 13-inch high-excursion unit, the biggest in their line for a while, and they've packed it into a chassis that's surprisingly compact. The iron fist in a velvet glove description isn't just marketing fluff. The cone moves a lot of air, and the enclosure is engineered to keep that movement tight. In practice, that means you can sit on your couch and feel the low end in your chest during a movie explosion, but you won't get the boomy overkill that makes dialogue feel distant. I tested it with a 7.1 surround setup in a 20-foot room, playing a mix of sci-fi action, orchestral scores, and even bass-heavy EDM tracks. The sub hit the low frequencies fast, and the DS-driven room correction kept the output consistent whether I was a few feet from the front wall or tucked in a corner. One of the hidden trade-offs with any powerful sub is the power draw and heat. The SB3000 is rated at 800 watts IMS, and it can peak over 2,500 watts when you demand that extra punch. In my tests, the unit stayed cool under continuous movie playback thanks to the internal fan that only kicks in when the temperature rises. The fan is practically inaudible unless you're in the same room at a whisper. That said, if you're planning to run the sub at maximum volume for long gaming sessions, you'll notice a slight increase in power consumption. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind for households that monitor electricity usage. The control app is where the SB3000 starts to feel modern. Most subwoofers still rely on a knob on the back or a separate remote, but SVS gives you a smartphone interface that lets you adjust volume, phase, and crossover points on the fly. I found myself pulling the app out when I switched from a movie night to a gaming session, dialing the crossover down a notch to tighten the bass for fast-paced shooters, then raising it again for cinematic bass in a thriller. The app also saves presets, so you can have a movie setting and a music setting with a single tap. It's convenient, but the downside is that you need a stable Wi-Fi connection. I did experience a brief lag when the router was under heavy load, which meant I had to fall back on the manual knob for a minute. Now, who should consider the SVS SB3000? If you already have a decent set of front-stage speakers, and you're looking to add that extra low-frequency oomph, without having to rebuild your entire system, this sub is a solid match. It shines in medium-sized rooms, where you want the impact of a larger 15-inch sub, but lack the floor space. It's also a good fit for serious movie buffs, who notice the difference between a rumble that feels like a distant thunder, and one that makes the couch vibrate. The built-in DSP makes it forgiving for rooms that aren't perfectly symmetrical, which is a common pain point for DIY installers. Conversely, if you're a casual listener who only watches TV a few nights a week, or if you have a tiny apartment where the bass could disturb neighbors, you might be better off with a less powerful 10-inch model. The SB3000's output can be a bit overwhelming in a very small space, and while you can turn the volume down, you lose some of the headroom that makes the sub feel effortless. Also, if you're a purist who prefers analog knobs over apps, you may find the reliance on the smartphone interface a little gimmicky. The unit does have a physical dial, but most of the fine-tuning lives in the app. Practical strengths are easy to spot. The sub's integration with the rest of the system was tight. I never had to chase the boom 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 that often happens when a sub is too aggressive. The DSP's room calibration feature took the